gamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Mga butang nga angay himuon aron malikayan ang COVID-19. Stay at home. Puyo og balay. Ayaw gawas kung walay importanteng himuon. Social distancing. Likayi ang tapok-tapok. Tuman sa curfew. Bawal na mo gawas gikan alas 8 sa gabi hangtod alas 4 sa sayong kabuntagon. Alang sa mga concerns, tambag, sugyot o suhestyon, tawag sa Gensan COVID-19 Hotline 0951-088-8801 hangtod 8807. Sa giyera kontra COVID-19, ang atong armas, mao ang panaghiusa. Matag general adunay kaakuhan, matag general adunay kalambigitan. COVID out, laban Gensan. Pahinumdum, gikan sa lokal nga panggamhanan sa dakbayan sa General Santos.
Hanap mo ba ay ekspertong serbisyo ng bayan?
RPN Radio Philippines Network Radyo Ronda DXDX General Santos, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Mas tulong lakas, Radyo Ronda Nationwide.
Award-winning singer releases her new track, which is now over 18 million views and counting. Minors aged 12 to 17 will now get added protection against COVID-19. The vaccination kicked off this morning in 8 hospitals here in Metro Manila. Our George Quiles tells us those with existing illnesses were first in line.
Parents and their children arrived early at the Pasig City General Hospital on the first day of the pediatric vaccination in the country. The government prioritizes the vaccination of children aged 12 to 17 with comorbidities. When Jackie Calaman learned about this, she immediately consulted her children's doctor. Her firstborn Brian has Crohn's disease, a gastrointestinal problem, while her youngest Bea has congenital heart disease.
May comorbidities kasi itong dalawa kong anak. So medyo high risk sila, kaya kailangan talaga mapabaksin.
The entire Kalamaan household contracted COVID-19 last month. Reason why Jackie's happy that somehow her children will be having extra protection from the deadly virus.
Good thing na lang hindi sila worse. Mild lang din talaga. All symptoms na meron sila, pero mild lang talaga yung napunta sa kanila. Parang trangkaso lang. Pero yun, awa ng Diyos, nakasurvive naman po kami lahat.
Parang na ginawaan po and relief kasi pakating na po yung protection na matagal na din po namin hinihintay.
Pasig City General Hospital Administrator Dr. Arlene Samonte says, since the vaccinees are patients of doctors affiliated with their hospital, some of them have already undergone counseling ahead of vaccination day.
Easy to convince parents to, get their children vaccinated?
A little bit hard. If according to our chief president here, they called several, pero konti din yung to come here and get their medical certificate. We hope it will improve sometime.
The country's Food and Drug Administration allows only 2 brands of COVID-19 vaccine to be administered to children, Pfizer and Moderna. And so far, Samonte says the first day of pediatric vaccination went smoothly and no reported adverse effect on children. The health department says those who want their children with comorbidities to get the COVID-19 shot need to get in touch with their doctors for the schedule and prepare the necessary documents to be presented during their appointment. George Quiles, CNN Philippines.
As of 4 p.m. today, over 1,000 minors got their COVID-19 shots on day 1 of their vaccination. And here's what we know so far. Nationwide, nearly 51.5 million doses have been administered 8 months into the inoculation program. Over 27.5 million people have received their first shot, while nearly 24 million are already fully vaccinated. A vaccination pace ticking up outside Metro Manila. In Laguna, the local government has reopened a popular theme park to serve as a vaccination site for now, with hopes regular operations will resume next month. Our Tristan Nadalo reports.
After months of shutdown, this theme park in Santa Rosa, Laguna is now opening its doors to the public, but not for leisure or amusement as it is for the city's COVID-19 vaccination drive. The province of Laguna is still under Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ, which means that theme parks can operate just yet. So for now, the park management offered its facilities to help vaccinate more residents of Laguna. The vaccination center can accommodate up to 2,000 people a day.
Naghanap kami ng lugar na kasi malaki din yung site na yon no, sa court nila na perfect and willing naman, willing and to help us, the city and the people and the vaccination. So first, naman talaga tong Enchanted Kingdom.
May ginhawa po kasi kahit papano, meron na po akong first dose ng bakuna. Maliban po doon, umaasa na rin ako na malapit ng maging normal yung lahat.
The pandemic also took a hit in the theme park business, affecting at least 30% of their manpower. They were able to reopen in October last year but close again last March due to the threat of the Delta COVID variant surge.
Talagang pinaghahandaan namin para kami makapagbukas sana after All Saints Day. In which case sana pati Laguna or at least ang Santa Rosa ay maibaba na sa alert level 3 or 2 or GCQ or MGCQ para sa ganon ay makalabas na mga tao, makabisita dito sa Enchanted Kingdom at sa iba pang mga outdoor tourist attractions in Calabarzon.
Should it be allowed to operate next month, the park says it already has a safety seal which meant compliance with the health standards. 90% of employees have also been immunized. And fully vaccinated guests can also expect discounts and perks when the theme park resume operations. As COVID-19 cases continue to decline in the province, the Enchanted Kingdom and the city government are hopeful that the interagency task force will reconsider their status as Christmas season approaches. In Santa Rosa, Laguna, Tristan Nodalo, CNN Philippines.
A diplomat calls on the Pandemic Response Task Force, or IATF, to remove the facility-based quarantine mandate for fully vaccinated travelers from the United States. Philippine ambassador to the U.S., Jose Romualdez, says Manila should include Washington in the so-called green countries tagged as low risk for COVID-19. Travelers from the green list only need to show a negative RT-PCR test result taken 72 hours before arrival. Romualdez explains the U.S. has high vaccination rates and that many Filipinos and Philams there are already fully vaccinated.
This Christmas is going to be a good Christmas, and definitely we have so many Filipino Americans and Filipinos who want to go home. They're just dying. You cannot imagine how many people have come to our consulates all over the United States asking us whether they can be exempted from going through the quarantine.
The government has added Romania to its red list, which is classified as high risk for COVID-19. Entry of travelers from red countries is prohibited. Only Filipinos being repatriated are allowed entry, subject to testing and quarantine protocols. Meanwhile, more countries are now included in the green list. A look at the complete roster later on in the show. The COVID-19 pandemic forced the decline in detection of tuberculosis cases. The World Health Organization says TB deaths are on the rise again for the first time after a decade as resources are diverted to fight the coronavirus. The health department admits its non-COVID services were affected by the COVID crisis. The DOH says it is now working on strategies to make sure individuals diagnosed with TB get the medicine they need without having to go to health facilities.
Atin pong isinasabay na sa ngayon itong pagdadiagnose ng COVID-19 with TB. Dati po kasi yung ating mga makina na ginagamit para sa TB ay talagang nagkaroon ng 100% shift to COVID-19. Itong mga gene expert machines natin. Pero nagsimula po yung taon, atin na pong hinati uli yung oras na yan dahil dumami na po yung RT-PCR equipments natin. At ngayon po, mas tumataas na ang ating pagtetest.
The WHO estimates some 4.1 million people currently suffer from tuberculosis but have not been diagnosed or have not officially reported to authorities. The WHO report in 2020 said the Philippines has the highest TB incidence rate in Asia, with 554 cases for every 100,000 Filipinos. Coming up on Newsnight, Filipinos overseas making the most of the extension of voter registration, Philippine embassies overwhelmed with long lines. And find out why some politicians are in multiple senatorial states. We'll be right back.
General Santos. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Mas tulong lakas, Radyo Ronda Nationwide.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy nakaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
Suportahi ang imong immune system para mabatukan ini ang mga viruses sama sa corona ug uban pa. Pag Herbalaya Food Supplement every day. Aduna kini mga natural herbs ug antioxidants nga mo pakusog sa imong immune system. Batukan ang mga viruses. Mag Herbalaya Food Supplement matag adlaw. Inyong mapalit sa inyong mga suking butika bisan asa. Herbalaya Food Supplement. Atong saligan aron virus malikayan.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produktong ito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Lines and hours of waiting time. Our Melissa Lopez has more.
Overseas workers and other Filipinos who will be out of the country for the May 9, 2022 polls were given until October 14th to register before foreign posts to cast their ballots there. Pinoys abroad were given a 2-week extension from the original September 30 deadline. Like in Manila, Philippine embassies were overwhelmed with long lines of last-minute registrants beating the Thursday deadline depending on their time zone. It took Ryan Celes 2 tries to sign up as a voter in South Korea. His first attempt on a Sunday saw hundreds of people outside the post in Seoul, an hour-long trip from his work in Incheon.
The line was not moving when we went there. I mean, so long. I went back again the following week on a weekday.
Embassies opened for extended hours to accommodate more people. Some forget social distancing. One aspiring voter from Dubai fell in line from 4 p.m. until 1 in the morning just to sign up.
Sa totoo lang, ma'am, ito yung pinakamahabang pila na pinilaan ko sa buong buhay ko. Nag-order na rin kami ng pagkain namin, tapos ganun din yung mga kabayan.
Diana Quino's experience in Riyadh was relatively better, taking about 2 hours on her day off.
Marami talaga. Yung iba nga doon, inabot na ng mga alas 4.
Latest COMELEC data shows some 1.6 million Filipinos have registered as overseas voters for next year's polls. They will either vote in person at consular offices or send their ballots via snail mail. It's one huge sacrifice. To register, many have to travel from their workplaces to embassies and back, and retrieve their passport from employers to present as their valid ID. Some have to take a day off just to complete the process, which to some means no pay. But that's nothing against their strong desire to choose the country's next set of leaders.
Siyempre may mga gusto din kaming mga kandidato sa ngayon. So, sayang din kasi yung mga boto namin.
Having the possibility to elect the right woman is worth every long line. I really want to, go back sa Pilipinas. Ang saya kaya nung feeling na maayos yung gobyerno na babalikan.
Although out of the country, these Filipinos know their choices matter. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
At least 3 presidential aspirants have revealed their senatorial slate, but senatorial bets endorsed by political parties overlap. Our Paulo Barcelon will tell us who among these hopefuls got the most support.
A week after the filing of COCs, the senatorial lineup of various presidential and vice presidential tandems have begun shaping up. At least 4 of them have identified their Senate slate, with overlapping guest aspirants. First to reveal its lineup was the tandem of Senators Bato de la Rosa and Bongo, under the ruling PDP Laban Party. It includes former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo, former DPWH Secretary Mark Villar, former DICT Secretary Gringo Honasan, and actor Robin Padilla. PDP Laban Secretary General Melvin Matibag said this lineup is still not yet final.
Honestly, hindi pa po talaga kompleto at tapos kasi that one I can certainly admit to you na Meron po kaming mga nakahanda na pwede pong i-substitute pa until November 15 po.
The tandem of Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Kiko Pangilinan has also revealed its senatorial ticket. It includes 2 members from the Liberal Party and 3 re-electionists. The rest are from other parties. They are Senators Laila de Lima, Risa Ontiveros, Richard Gordon, Mig Zubiri, and Joel Villanueva, Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero, former Congressman Teddy Bagilan, and lawyers Chel Diokno and Alex Lacson. The lineup also includes former Vice President Jejo Marbinay and former Senator Antonio Trillanes.
Ako naniniwala ako na wala namang perpekto sa amin, kahit ako. Walang perpekto sa amin, pero yung pinakamahalaga, yung commitment, saka yung readiness na umupo sa isang lamesa at pakinggan yung iba't ibang mga paniniwala ng mga kasama.
The tandem of Senators Panfilo Lacson and Tito Soto have 14 names in its lineup. 6 are from the Nationalist People's Coalition, including Antique Representative Loren Legarda, Dero, Senator Win Gatchalian, former Senator G.V. Ejercito, former Quezon City Mayor Herbert Bautista, and former Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol. 3 Reforma bets are also in the slate: Dr. Mingita Padilla, former Makati Congressman Munsur Del Rosario, and former journalist Paulo Capino. Also in the lineup as guests are Zubiri, Villanueva, Gordon, Binay, and Honasan. The tandem of Senator Manny Pacquiao and Congressman Lito Atienza, meanwhile, has 10 names in its lineup. They are broadcaster Rafi Tulfo, labor leader Elmer Labog, former Congressman Nery Colmenares, former Governor Lutgardo Barbo, and guest aspirants Zubiri, Escudero, Binay, Villanueva, Legarda, and Gordon. As for the tandem of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Dr. Willie Ong, it has so far Carl Balita, Samira Guto, and Attorney Jopet Sison in its senatorial lineup. Paulo Barcelon, CNN Philippines.
Well, speaking of senators, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's political party is eyeing one of them as its standard-bearer. Lakas CMD says Senator Bong Revilla is still an option for its presidential candidate. Although Revilla has declined, the party remains hopeful he will, quote, change his mind. This after Lakas CMD admitted it is no longer expecting presidential daughter and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte to see the top post.
We really have to respect the decision of Mayor Inday Duterte because first, she's still young, and then she has so many unfinished business in Davao City. We really have to respect that.
Last week, Lakas CMD fielded the tandem of a certain Ana Velasco and Lyle Fernando Uy, who are believed to be placeholders. Well, 2 presidential aspirants in hot water for possible health protocol violations. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says he's looking into the supposed violations of a, quote, politician running for a national position who went to Batangas, unquote. He reiterates mass gatherings are still not allowed. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara also pitched in. She says it is the responsibility of political hopefuls to make sure election-related activities do not become super-spreader events. Among those who visited Batangas this week are Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Senator Manny Pacquiao. Moreno, who led a rally there just this morning, responded to Año's remarks.
They are entitled to do what they have to do. As far as Batangas is concerned, Senator Ralph Recto and the group and the city government of Lipa, they have followed all the procedures, all the health protocols, as you can see in the spacing and so on and so forth.
Pacquiao, on the other hand, slams allegations he was buying votes. The senator was seen giving cash and goods to supporters in Lipa yesterday. About 7,000 people flocked to the stadium to receive 1,000 pesos and grocery items from him. Pacquiao insists the money he spent on the event came from his own pocket.
Yung pamimigay ng pera at saka bigas, 2002 ko pa ginagawa yan. Mula noon hanggang ngayon, ma-eleksyon man o walang eleksyon, talagang habit ko nang mamigay pag nakita ko na maraming nangangailangan, nagugutom. Mas mabuti yung mamigay kaysa magnakaw. Mahirap magnakaw ka tapos hindi ka mamigay din.
Pacquiao has not spoken up on the issue of protocol violations. Now, as the election race heats up, the poll body's employees are seeking protection after an attack on one of their colleagues. Gunmen attacked Maluso Basilan election officer Aknam Hasim Monday night. He survived the ambush. The COMELEC Employees Union issued a statement asking for better protection of employees. This was met with COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon calling on Basilan Governor and the Provincial Police Director to investigate the matter and keep Hasim and his family safe. The Philippine National Police also previously announced they are coordinating with COMELEC to defend the agency's employees from attacks. Now, News Overseas focused on the positive that was clearly the U.S. President's argument as he spoke about the pandemic. President Joe Biden touted rising vaccination rates and lowering COVID cases. Despite the progress, there are setbacks. CNN's Caitlin Collins reports the White House is scrambling to address the issues.
We're in a very critical period as we work to turn the corner on COVID-19.
President Biden attempting to reassure the nation.
Case rates are declining in 39 states, and hospital rates are declining in 38 states.
Focusing on numbers moving in the right direction, while those going in the wrong one are still plaguing the White House.
We have critical work to do, but we can't let up now.
Americans' confidence in the president's handling of COVID-19 has dropped since he took office, as more people now believe a return to normal is further away. 66 million eligible Americans still haven't gotten vaccinated as the president pushes mandates that he once opposed.
Vaccination requirements should not be another issue that divides us.
The pandemic still gripping the economy as an overcrowded supply chain causes shortages, delays, and higher cost for consumers. Adding to the president's problems, his domestic agenda remains at the center of a standoff among Democrats in Congress.
We're trying to work as fast as we can, but we're waiting on two people to tell us what they agree on and what they want.
One Democratic senator is calling on the House to vote on the infrastructure bill while lawmakers sort out the larger social safety net package.
We're 19 days away from an election in Virginia. The president's got a huge win sitting out there on a once in 50 years infrastructure plan. Let's make it the law of the land.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the White House is keeping the focus on both bills. Does the president agree with that sentiment?
The president wants to get both pieces of legislation passed. That requires having the majority of votes in Congress to get that done, and that's what he's working to get across the finish line.
Coming up on Newsnight, Coldplay is going on tour again, but this set of concerts uses an eco-friendly route. And Adele's viral new single takes fans on an emotional ride. Details after a quick break.
Beans Network, Radyo Ronda DXDX General Santos, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Mas tulong lakas, Radyo Ronda Nationwide.
Huy, naunsa man ka? Nagmugot lagi ka. Kabalon ako. Ikapoy ka no. Sakit imo lawas tungod sa sobrang trabaho o sakit imo ulo tungod sa stress? Pahuway una. Ginhawag lawom ug hiluta ang imong ulo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Kay mausab ni akong ginahimo. Maong akong taas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag Herbalaya break sa
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy nakaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa ang lemongrass o tanglad na pamatudan nga makapakunhod sa blood pressure. Ang luyang dilaw makawala sa insomnia ug bad cholesterol. Ang ampalaya gamhanan alang sa diabetes. Ang malunggay nga puno sa vitamina ug minerals. Kining tanan ug uban pang mga natural antioxidants ana sa Herbalaya Food Supplement. Proteksyon ni ang imong lawas. Tumar og Herbalaya Food Supplement matag adlaw mapalit sa imong suking butika bisan asa. Herbalaya Food Supplement atong kadangpan ug kasaligan.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produkto nito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Gusto mo bang kumita habang nasa bahay ka lang? Gamit lang ang cellphone, laptop at wifi mo. Mag C4x4 system ka na.
4x4 system ka.
C4x4 system ka na. Magandang sistema para sa lifetime income mo. At hindi lang yan, dahil solid detailed certificate of DTI and Security Exchange Commission o SEC. Maaari silang bistahin sa kanilang Facebook page sa C4x4 System or tumawag sa numerong 0912-117-5516 or look for Mr. Jinggoy Monderondo. Tayo na, sumali na at magpayaman sa C4x4 System.
You're watching Newsnight. I'm Pia Ontiveros. An iconic comeback to the limelight with one stage green music for this year's concert. But it's not like any other tour you've been to. Coldplay's next big event features a one-of-a-kind dance floor which lights up every time you move. In short, powered by 100% renewable energy. The tour is set for March next year, but tickets go on sale as early as October 22nd. Fans will also help a cause. With every ticket sold, they get to plant a tree. And more news from more British music icons. Adele is back with a new track, one that ruled social media trends for the better part of the day. The music video for Easy on Me, her first new single in 6 years, got over 10 million views in less than 6 hours. The English singer also went trending #1 on Twitter worldwide shortly after the release. Here's a look at the ballad that's gone viral. In just a few more weeks, fans will be treated to more heartbreak songs from the hitmaker. Her next album, 30, comes out November 19. Two award-winning actor-directors have teamed up. CNN's David Daniel tells us who's on which side of the camera in today's Hollywood Minute.
I saw you in the yard playing sports. You're not very good. Find some other activities.
I like to read.
You read enough of those. Maybe you could become a writer.
Ben Affleck is a favorite uncle dispensing wisdom to a future writer in The Tender Bar. George Clooney directed the drama based on the memoir of Pulitzer Prize-winning writer J.R. Mooringer. The first trailer just dropped. The film arrives in theaters in December and on Amazon Prime Video in January.
Expectation has been very built up.
Michael Shannon is set to play one of the 20th century's most controversial politicians. He'll star in McCarthy, about the rise and fall of fiery U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy. Emilia Clarke co-stars as his ambitious wife. Production is set to begin next fall.
You got me losing my head. I never know what I said. You got me spinning around and around.
New music from Carlos Santana. The legendary guitarist collaborates with an all-star group of performers on his new album, Blessings and Miracles, including Rob Thomas and American authors on the song Move.
I am so grateful to God, the universe, Rob, Clive Davis, because I am the recipient of some divine intelligence that orchestrated all of these ingredients and components and nutrients that I get to just close my eyes, play the guitar, and complete a dream.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
This Global Hand Washing Day, remember to apply one of the simplest ways to help prevent the spread of the coronavirus before and after eating, after coughing or sneezing, following a visit to a public space. These are just a few of the instances of when you should wash your hands. But another way to keep you and your family safe from COVID is by wearing your mask at all times, observing social distancing when outside your home, and going out only when necessary. Even with the easing of quarantine rules, always keep health protocols in mind. We still have 71 days before Christmas Day, and that is it for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by...
So many questions about what is the federal government doing. Do you get the
answer? DXDX General Santos. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Mas tulong lakas, Radyo Ronda Nationwide.
Huy, naunsa man ka? Nagmugot lagi ka. Kabalon ako. Ikapoy ka no. Sakit imo lawas tungod sa sobrang trabaho. o sakit imong ulo tungod sa stress. Pahuway una, ginhawag lawom ug hiluta ang imong ulo gamit ang Herbalaya liniment oil. Kay mausab ni akong ginahimo, mao nga kung taas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag Herbalaya break sa
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy nakaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa. Ang lemongrass o tanglad na pamatudan na makapakunhod sa blood pressure. Ang luyang dilaw, makawala sa insomnia o bad cholesterol. Ang ampalaya, gamhanan alang sa diabetes. Ang malunggay, nga puno sa vitamina ug minerals. Kining tanan ug uban pang mga natural antioxidants. Ana sa Herbalaya Food Supplement. Proteksyon ni ang imong lawas. Tumar og Herbalaya Food Supplement matag adlaw. Mapalit sa imong suking butika bisan asa. Herbalaya Food Supplement. Atong kadangpan ug kasaligan.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produktong ito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Ang Boses ni Juan 2021 ay hatid sa inyo ni
Mr. Eugene Tata Alzate.
Mr. Eugene Tata Alzate ng Glan, Sarangani Province.
MI Herbal Capsule, ito'y garantisado, mura pa ang presyo. MI Herbal Capsule, epektibong gamot, gagaling sigurado. MI Herbal Capsule, pamilya protektado sa gamot na ito. MI Herbal Capsule, MI Herbal Capsule.
MI Herbal Capsule ang food supplements na makatabang sa kadaghang mga sakit. Ana ay herbal oil nga bida sa mga panuhod. Aduna sad sila'y upat ka kapsula nga ginawa sa Invent Foods Manufacturing Incorporated. MI Herbal Capsule, MI Squalene, MI Minaba, MI Clarice ug uban pa. Kini makatabang sa kidney, high blood, stroke, labi na ang cancer, o kini na pamatud-an sa uban.
Mayong adlaw sa tanan, ako di ay si Roselyn Patiris, salunan Bagsakan Laray. Ako ug ang akong mama naayo og natabangan ani herbala. Si mama atong 2004 naayo siya siyang stage 4 breast cancer. Ug ako katong 2020 lang jud nako inflammatory breast cancer. Lagom sa tutoy nga naay bukol sa tunga. Gipangita na ko ning herbala sa Davao del Norte bisag layo akong giantos. Tudis ko wala nagninda para makita lang ning herbala. Kay nahadlo ko kay kaliwat namang breast cancer side by side jud ug nangamatay ng akong mga tiya. Tungod kay nahadlo ko breast cancer, gusto ko madali maayo. Gidouble dosage jud nako. Kaluyan sa Ginoo 7 days lang jud naayo ko. Nawala ang lagom ug bukol sa akong tutoy. Ug ilado ko sa Laray Bagsakan, daghang natabangan ani. Akong mama gamay ra ang gasto kay brato ra jud ni. Pakapas ra gyud ta. Labi na gyud kang wala tay ka pa hospital ug labi na jud wala tay ka opera. Di basta-basta magpa-opera. Usa kamo tanan ngan ay mga sakit diha, labi na gyud breast cancer, sulay ninyo ni para daghan ta matabangan.
Tumar na og MI Herbal Products, ang tambang na masaligan. Pwede mong matawag or text sa 0938-504-0758 or mo diri sa sigyahanan sa RPN DXDX General Santos, certified halal and approved by FDA.
MI Herbal Capsule na.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produktong ito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Gikan sa tuna capital of the Philippines, General Santos. Nagsibya sa Gikusgon near 5,000 RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. DXDX 693 kHz. Ang inyong Radyo Ronda sa syudad sa mga kampeon. Live to the world, pinaagi sa FB page. Karon, mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas ipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. DXDX Size 93, ang mas ipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Cerebral palsy is an umbrella term for a group of neurological disorders that affects muscle movement and coordination. Now, this physical disability is often seen as early as childhood. It's caused by abnormal brain development or injury of the developing brain. And as a result, the part of the brain that's responsible for movement, coordination, and posture is affected. And in most cases, brain injury that leads to cerebral palsy occurs during pregnancy. Today on the show, we'll learn more about this condition, how it's diagnosed, treated, managed, as well as prevented, and what's the long-term outlook for people with the condition. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Cerebral palsy is the most common motor disability in childhood. And as the name implies, cerebral means your brain, and palsy means a weakness or maybe a problem using your muscle. Based on recent studies, though, an estimated 17 million people in the world are affected by cerebral palsy. Our guests are here today to help us better understand this condition. With us is Dr. Ludela Calotes Castillo. She's a pediatric neurologist and neuromuscular specialist from the University of the Philippines General Hospital and Manila Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Teresita Joy Evangelista, who is the head of Rehabilitation Medicine Division at the Philippine Children's Medical Center. Cerebral palsy. Now, except for its mildest form, cerebral palsy can be evident in the first around 12 to 18 months of a child's life. And signs and symptoms can vary from one child to the next, and they can range from mild to severe. They can also become more apparent over time and based on the type of CP that the child has. Now, the most common type of cerebral palsy is the spastic type. It affects approximately 80% of patients. Now, my first question is para kay Doc Ludi. Could you tell us more about this more common type or most common type of cerebral palsy?
Usually po, we notice them that they're stiffer than usual. And that with that stiffness in their limbs, they can have really difficulty early on with their motor development. Nahihirapan silang mag-roll, minsan umupo, maglakad. At ito sila, kadalasan din, lalo na pag ang stiffness ay buong katawan, nagkakaroon din sila ng ibang comorbidities katulad ng seizures or learning disability.
Dr. Ludi, you bring up a good point because I'd like to ask, aside from nahihirapan mag-roll or nahihirapan maglakad, ano pa ba yung ibang mga basic challenges ng mga patients with spastic CP?
Unlike sa isang normal infant growing towards the first 2 years of life, for example, maraming challenges pwedeng mangyayari sa isang bata na may CP. Aside from movement, they can also have learning problems. Kasama dito yung speech delay because sometimes ang iba sa kanila may hearing problem as well, no? And some will also have difficulty po with vision.
Mobility issues are certainly one of the most common problems. So something as simple like what you said as walking or crawling out of bed can be very difficult. And in some cases, a child with CP can experience pain. So let's explain that a little bit. Dr. Joy, bakit kaya nangyayari ito?
We sort of measure the children with CP versus that schedule or what we call the developmental milestones. We check if they are delayed in the different aspects of development, no? From gross motor, yan na nga yung sitting, standing, walking. Fine motor is the use of the hands, and also as mentioned, speech and language, and also self-help skills. They can develop spasticity, which is actually very common in these children. About 60% of them have spastic muscles. Spastic muscles, most people don't realize, are also painful muscles. Because kung you try to stretch the muscle, pag pinilit mo siyang stretch, it becomes painful, no? So that the child will wince or iiyak siya, no? When you try to stretch a painful muscle. That's why you should also address spasticity.
Dr. Joy, talk to us about the way that you assess a child for therapy, a child with CP for therapy.
The team is composed of the doctor and the different therapists. The physical therapist usually takes care of or focuses on the gross motor abilities of the child, and the occupational therapist focuses more on the fine motor skills and the self-help skills of the child. So, tulong-tulong yung buong team in helping the child achieve yung mga milestones which are expected for that age. And it is through play para siya ay encouraged to come for therapy. It is in the form of play. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya, play therapy. And the evaluation is always individualized. The doctor makes the evaluation and also the therapist make their evaluation. And together, the team creates a program for the child, and we reassess periodically if these goals are achieved or still appropriate for the child.
Occupational therapy, of course, not only benefits the person with cerebral palsy, but also those around him or her. Now, Dr. Joy, meron bang tamang age para mag-umpisa ang therapy ang isang batang may CP?
The earlier, the better. If you suspect that there is some problems or delays in the child, please bring the child right away to the doctor, pediatric centers, for assessment and evaluation.
Some children with cerebral palsy also have problems controlling the muscles in their face, their tongue, their jaw, as well as their chest. And that affects their speech, among other things. Now, Doc Ludi, could you tell us more about these type of challenges naman?
You look at the overall development of a baby. Therefore, speech actually is of course, it's an important milestone, and this actually should be should follow the oromotor function of the baby, meaning the baby should feed well first, should be able to swallow well first before he's able to speak properly later on. So this should be actually picked up early. The difficulty should be picked up early so that there would be more chance of recovery later on.
Now, Dr. Joy, given these speech problems, what type of therapy or support is available for children with CP here in our country?
We have very good pediatric centers all over the Philippines, and the training centers are also very good. Sabi ko nga sa mga patients and the parents rather, that maraming karpintero, pero hahanapin mo yung karpintero na magaling dito sa bata. So, please look for the centers who are very good for children.
Now, there are also those with cerebral palsy who suffer from neurological problems. Doc Ludi, can you help explain what these are naman and why they happen?
Cerebral palsy, as you said, a group siya of disorder because the brain experiences an injury or an insult early when the time that the brain is still developing. So therefore, any cause po, whether nagkaroon ng early infection ang baby, or there was an infection in the mom's womb, or there was a problem po sa oxygen, nagkaroon ng problem with birth, and that is actually the most common cause, birth injury or birth problem. So these are the other common causes of cerebral palsy.
A cure for cerebral palsy can still be a challenge. Physical, occupational, and speech therapy are among the ways to help improve the quality of life of an individual affected by it. Coming up, factors that put a baby at risk for the condition. Your health comes first here on the program. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa. Suportahi ang imong immune system para mabatukan ini ang mga viruses sama sa corona ug uban pa. Pag Herbalaya Food Supplement every day. Aduna kini mga natural herbs ug antioxidants nga mo pakusog sa imong immune system. Batukan ang mga viruses Diabetes. Mag-Herbalaya Food Supplement matag adlaw. Inyong mapalit sa inyong mga suking butika bisan asa. Herbalaya Food Supplement. Atong saligan aron virus malikayan.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produktong ito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
RPN DXDX General Santos.
We're your partner in healthcare on MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. There are certain factors that put babies at risk for cerebral palsy. Doc Joy, we want to begin with one of the more common risk factors is that of low birth and low birth weight. Now, what's the science behind these two factors?
Okay, so it's very important that the mother stays healthy during her pregnancy. So she should go for regular prenatal checkups so that the obstetrician can monitor her weight and the child's weight and her condition and the child's condition. And then during delivery, it should be assisted by competent professionals. And then after delivery, you can still have cerebral palsy, but there should be an anticipatory reaction to any problem or little observations that may be seen in the child, which appears to be not expected in the child.
Doc Ludi, when it comes to the risk factors, are there ways na yung mga mommies will be able to prevent this? To make sure that the brain of their baby suffers the least amount of risk of brain injury as possible?
Pinakamahalaga po na period is the first 1,000 days of life. Actually, that includes po yung pagkabuntis. Kasama na doon day 0, day 1 po yun, no? So after birth, there are a lot of things po that we can do, no, to prevent brain injury and possibly cerebral palsy as well. So ano po yun? To keep baby healthy. That's the general overview po. Tamang sustansya, magpabakuna on time, optimize babies safe play na hindi po magkaroon ng head trauma, hindi mahulog, or any form of injury.
RH incompatibility is also a risk factor for cerebral palsy. Now, for our viewers, RH incompatibility occurs when a mother's blood type is incompatible with her baby's blood type. Dr. Ludi, pag-usapan naman natin yon. Is that a strong risk factor for cerebral palsy?
It can be a risk factor, no? It can be a risk factor, but with good prenatal care, the OB team can actually, the OB and the pedia can actually help reduce the risks to babies' health as well, no? So it's not actually the most common cause. Ang most common cause is difficulty in delivery, no? Yung nawala ng oxygen at saka blood sa baby's brain. But it can be po a cause.
Could you talk about some of the illnesses that a mother can have during her pregnancy that can affect or that can influence a child having a CP?
Si mommy can also be infected early on, no, in the during the pregnancy. So with viruses such as yung tinatawag naming torch. So yun yung may toxoplasma, rubella, yung beke, mumps, chickenpox, at saka measles. Kadalasan po sa kanila ay preventable, no? Magpapabakuna si mommy, hindi po nakakatakot or hindi po yun contraindicated na magpapakuna during or before po pregnancy for MMR, and then flu, even flu, no, vaccine during pregnancy. So yun po ang isang step na pwedeng ma-prevent ang isang infectious or like a viral infection in the brain that can cause cerebral palsy.
When we return, devices, medicines, and other possible treatments for cerebral palsy. We care for the growing needs of our community. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa. Suportahi ang imong immune system para mabatukan ini ang mga viruses sama sa corona ug uban pa. Pag Herbalaya Food Supplement every day. Aduna kini mga natural herbs ug antioxidants nga mopakusog sa imong immune system. Batukan ang mga viruses. Mag Herbalaya Food Supplement matag adlaw. Inyong mapalit sa inyong mga suking butika bisan asa. Herbalaya Food Supplement. Atong saligan aron virus malikayan.
Mahalagang paalala, ang produktong ito ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Ikaw ba nagapangita og customizing cake sa inyong matag okasyon? Para sa mga katawan sa glan og Jazz Jose Abad Santos, ani-ana ang maayong balita og solusyon sa imong gipangita. Edsoy's Cake Shop. Edsoy's Cake Shop. Ang Edsoy's Cake Shop naga-offer kaninyo og birthday customizing cake, wedding customizing cake, anniversary customizing cake, ug uban pa. Para sa dugang impormasyon, pwede usab kamo mo follow sa ilang Facebook page, Edsoy's Cake Shop, located at Purukpangi, Barangay Big Margos, Glan, Sarangani Province.
RPN DXDX General Santos.
Cerebral palsy refers to a group of disorders that affects muscle movement and coordination. And in many cases, vision, hearing, and sensation are also affected. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to the program. Dr. Ludi, what are some of the medications given for a child with CP, and how is it usually administered?
Usually, ang common na mga medication that we give would be baclofen. We can also give clonazepam, diazepam. Sila po yung mga common terms that we actually give. And because there are also other problems in these children, we also treat the seizures as well.
Dr. Joy, is surgery ever an option sa mga batang may cerebral palsy?
Yes, we also have the injectable medicine, the botulinum toxin, which is very well used now for spasticity. Surgery may be an option if there are fixed deformities already or merong joint dislocation, then we may refer the child for surgery. If that particular deformity or joint dislocation is getting in the way of the acquisition of the skill, especially standing and walking, then surgery may be a consideration.
What about the family support, the support system ng isang batang may CP? What is it like, or what advice can you prepare the parents?
We always deal with the parents. They're very crucial in the development of the child and the healing of the child. We always say that the child does not know that he is not normal. So treat them as normal as you can.
Now, Dr. Ludi, speaking of limitations as well, what type of physical activity can a child with CP engage in safely? Of course, every parent wants their child to be able to play with other children as well, but we have to set some limitations or realizations para sa mga parents.
It depends on the degree of brain insult or even the severity of cerebral palsy sa simptomas nila. Kung minsan po, isang kamay lang, isang side lang po ang disability. Minsan po, mild lang din, konting difficulty lang sa walking but they can walk. So, now that in that case po, it should be tailor fit.
Now, before we go, Dr. Ludi, do you have any advice for our viewers, especially those who have children with CP?
We focus on the ability, and the moment po that we're able to recognize the needs of each of our patients with cerebral palsy or our family with cerebral palsy, then we will be able to understand what they are capable of doing po, and what are the things that they like to do or prefer to do as well. So I think for each family, for each patient, what would be best is different. Okay.
Okay.
It should be tailor-fit.
Yes, I agree. And Dr. Joy, if there were 3 things that our viewers would take away from this episode on cerebral palsy, what would it be?
Well, number 1, don't lose hope. Okay? And I have actually 2 students. No, ma'am, do you know that I have cerebral palsy? One is a dentist and one is a doctor. So now they're dentists and doctors. So they were able to achieve very high functions despite cerebral palsy. Okay, so these children are blessings. We need the parents to support them, the whole family actually to support them. And as mentioned, that there is hope for them to lead very full and functional lives.
Now, cerebral palsy affects each person in a different way. Families will have different experiences, but whether the case is mild or severe, there are a number of ways that parents especially can help their child achieve their best. With that, I'd like to thank our guest for today, pediatric neurologist Dr. Ludela Calotes Castillo and rehabilitation medicine specialist Dr. Teresita Joy Evangelista. Marami pong salamat, doctors, for joining us today. Thanks for watching our program today. Be safe and healthy. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Roger.